be reloading the page on the LinkedIn just to make sure that we're. Oh no, we're really going live. Hey,
Yeah, I
Andrew.
think we're live now. Hi, Dmytro. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. Hey guys, everyone who connected, I got you such a interesting person. I'm really excited because I admire Andrew a lot. Andrew is a director of MDR at UnderDefense, and I learned from him so much. And I would really love to have this conversation today. I've been excited this whole time that we've been preparing this webinar because I wanted to ask you so many questions and I wanted to discuss so many topics. And I anticipate it's gonna be the hour is gonna be not enough, most probably.
Oh, thank you so much for having me today. Yeah, definitely. Some of us are rushing to get some late Christmas presents. Some are finishing their current business operations. Some are looking forward to their vacations. And thank all of our audience today for shedding some time, finding a minute to listen to some two geeks talking. I hope that you find this information that we share with you today interesting, useful. I would probably ask you to drop us some comments, questions, maybe just reflect what you feel, what you hear, something that can help us to shape this conversation and make sure that it's been as useful as possible. For those who just joined, we have Dmytro on the call. My name is Andrew. I work as Managed Detection and Response Director with UnderDefense. I've been with the company for plus 6 years. So a lot of customers that are current customers, past customers, future customers probably will have a chance to meet me. Hopefully, we can provide you with some interesting insights, maybe some details of a corporation, something that might be um, useful, practical, something that you can probably take as a take out of this conversation.
Yeah, yeah. And before we start, I'd like to say that you mentioned and managed detection and response, and SIEM is a very important part of the detection side. So the topic today is pretty complex, and there's so many things about it to discuss. And before we actually had this meeting, I had my own little research. I've went through some uh, online boards to see what the guys are looking for, particularly what they are discussing about the scene, what they're trying to figure out. And I made some interesting conclusions, and we're going to uncover them today. But before we go into that, some of you guys probably saw me in person or Andrew in person. Some of you guys had a chance to see us having some webinars here. But for those who didn't, we are from the company called UnderDefense. We specialize in managed security for companies. And our main thing is not the SIEM, but the SIEM is a very important part of that. So we provide managed detection and response to all kinds of businesses, and we've been on the market for more than 6 years now. And at this moment in time, there's 65,000 more endpoints protected by us. And this is a very, very big number. We have our own SOC team that has an eye over it, and we have all the right processes for that. And this is why you can actually trust this thing that we're trying to deliver here. It's important that you understand who we are, and we encourage you guys to reach out to us and familiarize yourselves with us, to ask some questions and have a fair discussion so that we can build a good standard relationships with you guys. So I'd like to jump to the exact topic of today's conversation. And if you are here, chances are you're dealing with one of the two things. You either don't have a SIEM yet, and you need to figure out, where to start with it, or you have a solution already, but it's not quite, cutting it. Maybe it's too expensive, maybe it's too complex, or it's just, it doesn't deliver. Either way, we're going to walk through the tales and, the challenges, the comparisons. So you leave today feeling confident about your next move. Be sure with that. So to start, I want you to picture it in the following way. Imagine you're responsible for monitoring the building, and you've got 50 security cameras, let's say, and they're streaming live. And here's the catch: each camera fits to a different screen, and you are staring at this massive wall of monitors, and all of a sudden, there's this very, very suspicious movement. But which screen it's on? And by the time you figure it out, the threat could already be gone. And that's basically what a security stack without a SIEM looks like. So you're collecting logs and managing tools and seeing alerts, but without a single pane of glass, let's go this way, to correlate events and to tell you what's actually happening. You're flying blind. And as a result, the critical incidents are going to slip through the glass, and by the time you detect a real issue, it may be already too late. Is this the correct idea for this kind of thing, Andrew?
Well, that's one of the perception that we could try to picture in front of our audience today. But as you mentioned, I truly think that most of our today's audience already know what SIEM is. They probably had a chance to play around with it, and one of the options why they possibly could visit this webinar and listen to us is just because they want to explore some other options. Maybe something that they have at the moment is totally fine with them, totally like satisfying their needs, but maybe it's something that they would want to explore. And I would say that 50 cameras is a good number. Sometimes you need just one to figure out a security incident. On the other hand, 50 might be not enough. So it's, as Dmytro mentioned, a matter of gathering security telemetry, security information, security data in one place, and not having just a pile of information, the stack of something that you would want to dive into and search for this. You might want to have something that triggers your attention, something that brings it up. I would say that AI is a modern answer to this, Dmytro, don't you think? Most of these cameras have a built-in software that helps you to detect a potential threat, potential intruder, someone who is trying to do illegal movements within your infrastructure. But then again, it's just a telemetry, it's just an alert. And then you would want these alerts to be stacked each behind another one, trying to figure out the holistic picture, trying to figure out what stood behind those, what was the initial access, who was at the very beginning of this security incident, as we call it now. So definitely, yes, I would say that from a security perspective, SIEM Solutions is something that you might want to have, something that can help you to get a holistic view inside of your security environment. It helps a lot to basically find the answers to the questions you might have, like what is the most vulnerable asset? Who is the employee I should pay more attention to? Did we had any suspicious connections to my, I don't know, security data environment or anything else that you might want to get the answer to? That's why in most of the cases, when we have the customers, the new ongoing customers, when we have the new onboardings, I would emphasize on having a SIEM at some point of time within the development of your company, of your security strategy. Again, it always differs. Some companies are small, and speaking about SIEM is a good and huge investment. That's a solid step that they need to take. Others already do have SIEM. Maybe they will need another one. Maybe they need a fine-tuning of an existing one. Maybe they need some additional modules that can help turn this SIEM into the tool that actually brings the answers, that brings the value. You know that having security tools is not a panacea. You always need to have the exact answers to your question and bring the value to your cybersecurity model. That's why we introduce different tools within different stages of security onboarding.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I like how you mentioned the AI part because, the availability and possibilities are expanding, and there is no shortage of tools to expand your visibility over your network, over your endpoints, over all the available devices. And at some point, you mentioned that having a SIEM is a very good recommended step, and not only recommended by companies and vendors like us, it's also recommended by auditors. It's recommended by the compliances because you're dealing with a very large amount of data that you need to process somehow, and the more you're expanding your visibility, the more you need to correlate, because when we're dealing with the detection part, we are interested not only in receiving the data, We don't want to just be overwhelmed by everything that we have coming in, but we want to make sure that this is not just the data, it's rather an information that we can turn from building the detection, that we can turn it into real analytics. And this is where very complex solutions come into place and help us out.
Yeah. Let's jump to the meat. I think that our audience is excited to see what we have to propose,
Yeah,
and
sure.
I'm really excited, to share some ideas about the SIEM, about how it operates, what are the pros and cons of different solutions.
Yeah, sure. So there's different things to begin with. SIEM is not the easiest solution in the world, definitely. There's multiple things that need to be addressed, and I would like to address some of the ones that we have on the screen right now. So, you know, in many companies, when they invest in the very powerful SIEMs, such as Splunk, for example, which is the most famous one, they only utilize up to 20% of the features while paying 100% of the premium price. It's like buying a Ferrari and then drive around a crowded city at 20 miles per hour. And you know, like a large retail chain purchases an enterprise SIEM that promises advanced analytics and AI-driven threat detection, but because they lacked the internal expertise to configure and optimize it, they end up using it for simple log collection, and it's good to use it as a log collector. It's a part of deal, but something far cheaper could have handled that. And in these cases, they're spending tens of thousands annually, but only scratching the surface of the capabilities. And one of the biggest things is the expertise gap. This is something that we actually see most of the time when we start working with our clients. And in many occasions, they actually come to us because they don't have the expertise to uh, to implement and manage the SIEM solution. They don't have it internally, and you know the most experienced engineers can take 6 to 20 months to master platforms like Splunk or QRadar, and the learning curve is pretty much steep. And let's face it, hiring SIEM experts isn't cheap, and this often leads to underutilized tools and frustrated teams. How is this going in your expertise when you start onboarding new clients when they demand a managed SIEM solution?
Well, the cost trap is definitely. I was just about to ask you, but do you think that companies should not invest into the SIEM? I mean, like, you still need to pay 100% for the SIM solution. You cannot pay 50 or 75 unless you have some, end of year deal.
This is a question that goes way beyond the monetary things. And one of the reasons for this is how the companies actually make a decision. And when, as I saw in many examples that we could work with, in many occasions, the companies come for managed SIEM solution because they were demanded to have one. And oftentimes they don't know how to pick one, what they want to expect from it, how to manage it themselves, and what to expect from a vendor if they hire somebody like you or me and they want to have a fully managed solution. How to consider it done, what they're gonna get from it. And it's one thing to have the prices listed in front of you and decide based on those, because the budget is always one of the important things when making a decision for that. But answering the question, shouldn't they make a decision to purchase SIEM? They definitely should, especially when they already started investing in security setup. They will need one more generalized place, the command center, where they will be able to turn all this information that they're gathering, all this telemetry, into useful information.
So, from our experience, the SIM solution that you choose needs to comply to the requirements that you have. If it's a SIM solution that you want to use for log management, log aggregation only, That's one of the SIEM solution that you would want to follow. If you would want to have your SIEM specifically for security needs, doing, that it's been owned, managed, updated by a security team, that's quite a different one. If we would want a security tool, or not even a security tool, but let's call it a big data platform that will chase after security data, uh, information technology, IT data, performance information, something like the loads, the balancers, the available resources. That's quite a different solution that you need to choose. And that this is actually where the problem is. Some companies just go after the good name, after the brand. They just want to follow the trends in the security world. Just because company A chose SIEM A doesn't mean that you need to choose the same SIEM. Choose carefully. Make sure that you understand your needs. And once you know the need of a company, then you can address those needs with a perfect SIEM solution. Now, the other thing that I would probably emphasize on is not only the current needs that you want to pay attention to, but something in the near future, let's call 3 to 5 years, where you want to grow, where you want to see your company being positioned to. So if you feel that your company is in a perfect shape, you will not be adding no data sources. You will be transitioning to some smooth, easy operations. Then probably you're fine with a security solution that is best in this particular moment of time. But if you would want to add something, if you would want to have to scale, if you would want to make sure that it has some, I don't know, some additional features that you do not need at the moment, then definitely you need to look at some other one. So again, a lot of questions, a lot of incoming information that you need to choose, something that you need to range out of. But first of all, first of advice that I could have to the audience today is that understand your needs, understand your current needs and your future needs, and with this, you can accommodate the best SIEM solution. The other question that you raised, Dmytro, was the expertise gap. Definitely, it's something that you can cover. You can cover this by outsourcing. You can have a professional services team that comes quite often and helps you to fine tune the solution. Most of SIEM vendors, they do offer you something like a professional services team that can work on your behalf, offering you some amount of hours retainer that will help you fine tune the solution. But then the question is to align those needs to your security team needs. So you can have the professional services team that will do their job perfectly fine, but you will get a lot of results, false positive results, true positive results, but these results might affect your security team operations efficiency. So ideally is when you have the in-house team, outsourced team, MDR team, whatever we call it, whatever the format is, but the team that is responsible for security monitoring and fine-tuning of these tools. This helps, to shorten these communication gaps, to make sure that adjustments are done efficiently in a speedy manner, that automation is being implemented, because that's something that helps, again, to mitigate time, to make sure that mean time to detect, mean time to respond is as adequate as possible. And we do want to have it in the availability of as least as possible. 5, 10 minutes, 1 minute, awesome. That's everything you want to achieve. So again, from a SIEM perspective, make sure that you understand what you need. Make sure that you know your data sources. Make sure that you understand where you move to.
Yeah, and I like that you touched on the topic of, actually utilizing the SIEM the right way and optimizing it and having custom correlations, because it's very important here. And, out of the box, it's not going to give you the result that you expect.
So
And it's
currently under defense, we work with, I think it's 7 or 8 different SIEM solutions.
mhm.
So it gives us a possibility of choose between different vendors. On the other hand, SIEM solution is something that is universal, something that has to have basic capabilities of answering the question, giving you a ability to ingest data, work with this data, correlate data, get information out of it. So we want to make sure that this solution is a perfect fit for each of our customers. And I propose we move to our next slide. I propose we look at the SIEM solutions that we prepare for today. I think it's SIEMs, Splunk, Elastic, and QRadar, right?
Yeah, let's talk about the difficulties of making this choice. It's actually a very good slide here because that's actually how our clients, in many cases, felt before they met us. Because they had a pretty wide choice, and we're going to go through some of the options that you have here. One of them being Splunk, QRadar, and Elastic. And I'd like to jump on this and discuss what are the actual strengths of these ones and potential weak points, the ones that you need to consider. Because how exactly are you going to choose one? What do you need to consider? What do you need to keep in mind?
Yeah, definitely. I'll be happy to give you some ideas on this. So I would say that under defense, we were a Splunk shop from the very beginning. Splunk provides you an ability to build information, correlations, data, whatever you need on top of this platform. So if you want Splunk to be a SIEM solution, it can be a SIEM solution. If you want this to be a IDSI solution, it could fill these gaps. If you would want this to be a business analytics platform, fine. As long as you have information within Splunk, you can do whatever is needed with this. And so this is one of the benefits. But on the other hand, you have the huge and universal tool that definitely needs a lot of resources, that needs a lot of investments, that needs a lot of fine tuning. So a lot of companies do choose something smaller, something easier, something simpler. I would say that why did we put Splunk, Elastic, and QRadar here? Again, our defense works with Sumo Logic, with Azure Sentinel, with Google Chronicle, with other SIEM vendors that could be potentially here. So if any of you guys have a need, or if you would want us to discuss some other SIEM solution, that's perfectly fine. Drop us a note so that we understand what SIEM you use at the moment, or which one would you want to analyze in our future webinars. So I would use Splunk for big enterprise companies, enterprise style. Some companies that have lots of various departments where you want to ingest data once, where you want to have a data lake, and then different, pull this information to different departments from different sides, but in a different manner. The challenges here, of course, would be a high cost associated with this. Again, you would want probably to perfectly identify the resources needed. The pricing might be a little bit complex because the more you ingest, the more price as an outcome you get. But this is the perfect tool for any type of expanding. So if you do not know what you want to, what you expect of your cybersecurity program in future, if you feel that there could be like something you want to add, to remove, you want to build on top of this Splunk system, I think that would be a perfect choice. On the other hand, if you would want to have something simpler, something easier, something that could give you an instant value within the security-focused operations, I would probably stop on QRadar. QRadar is an awesome tool. A lot of companies around the globe use it. It's perfect with IBM ecosystem, and IBM is like being one of the leaders in this IT security markets. They offer like awesome solutions, and these solutions are not SIEM only. You get EDR solution, SOAR solution, MDM solution with IBM products. So QRadar offers you this type of flexibility. If you're fine with IBM infrastructure, if you're fine with working with this type of products, if you're fine with a little bit like easier, let's call it this way, simpler operations compared to Splunk, that's perfectly your choice. The challenges or cons of this solution, as for me, as for my team, is first of all, complex deployment is not as easy as Splunk. Definitely, I would say that customization is so much limited, as well as a UI interface, UI learning curve. You might want to pay attention that as vivid as Splunk offers. They're not as adaptive and responsive as Splunk can offer. So QRadar is a fine tool, but I would probably suggest this for the infrastructure teams, for the companies that are bound to IBM tools. We also focused on Elastic today, just to give you an alternative between, for example, Splunk and QRadar. Elastic is, it was an underdog, but they are doing so much now to keep the pace and provide you as much as possible in the terms of security SIEM operations. So Elastic is really cost sensitive comparing to both Splunk and QRadar. You can have it even free if you are fine with proper deployment and fine tuning. They have the open source code. If you would want to go with a cloud deployment, perfectly fine. Well, I should probably go back one step and say that both Splunk and QRadar, they offer the cloud deployment, so it's like comparing apples to apples. Elastic is fine with basic log management, but they're doing a lot to provide you this in-depth analysis now, and they are actually adding a lot to their security stack. So the cons for this solution would be probably, in some cases, stability issues. Again, if you do not have enough knowledge to maintain this, there could be some situations when your deployment is down, and that means that you have no security telemetry. But if you have a good team, that's not a problem at all. That's not a challenge. That's probably the pros of this solution. This comes with a complex maintenance once in a while. In some cases, it's hard to do some kind of integrations with this tool. I don't have my favorite one. My team, they usually have, depending on the security engineer, depending on the environment that we work with, they would be rather recommending other solutions, just to make sure that we fit the needs of the customer. I would hate to come and say, go buy Splunk, because I do understand that it will fit all of their needs, but they could probably be too expensive, or maybe it's just too much for a company of 15 people or 50 people, whatever.
Yeah, but it's a very good question what you're going to integrate it with, because QRadar, it integrates real well with the IBM stack. It's a good idea for the companies that already use it. For Splunk, it has a perfect integration with, as far as I remember, 2,300 different tools that has very advanced AI integration. And basically speaking, most of the startups, and I bet the AI and machine learning guys in the chat, they know Elastic Stack really well. Even though if they didn't see the CM before this, they know the stack really well. So it's very, very well recommended for the startups at the beginning, and it's a very good solution. But yeah, let's move on with ours. So let's talk a little bit about the deployment, because Splunk is a pretty expensive solution, but for the IBM QRadar, I would say it's pretty complex to deploy it.
Let me guide you on these technical aspects of the solutions. So first of all, most of a modern SIEM solution, they could be deployed, as I mentioned, on-prem or in cloud. It all depends what you need. You can have cloud native tool that would be cloud only, and all the information would be stored, processed within the cloud environment. Splunk and QRadar offer you an option of deploying all in one instance. So, just one machine that is responsible for log collecting, log processing, aggregating data, and providing you with the results. Elastic at the moment doesn't have this feature, so we will need to have Logstash, Elasticsearch, and Kibana working together to provide you with these additional insights. But that I don't think that it's like a pros or cons. I would probably say that's like a little bit of a challenge for some teams. On the other hand, for a technical team that is well educated on this, it's just a piece of cake. Again, you can have a distributed environments where you have all of the different instances deployed, or different features of the same solution deployed on different machines, and this provides a lot of both pros and cons, depending on how you look at this, depending on the infrastructure size. From the disk space requirements, I would say that Splunk would be the lowest. You would probably need the less possible volume of data being stored, being processed, being archived in the future, with QRadar going with Modbus and Elastic going to the high disk space volume needed. For upgrades and scalabilities, well, I would say that all of the modern solutions, they are flexible on this side. It's really easy and straightforward for you to upgrade and scale with Splunk, because the more license you buy, the more resources you provide to the machine, the more data it processes. Probably the same with Elastic, but if you have this on-prem deployment with various machines, you might want to increase all of these instances depending on so it seems like we are fine on the deployment side. From the stability side, I would say that as long as you have a fair amount of efforts invested into the engineering part, all of the deployments are stable. You might want to deploy them in cloud, making sure that you have everything easy, fast, smooth. backups being done. So I would say that this part is something that you might want to compare. Probably QRadar might be like a little bit falling behind in this. Sometimes we do feel that it's not as, the performance is not as stable. But again, it's maybe a lack of resources that you provide. Maybe it's a fine tuning that you need to do. The data within the environment of the customers, it doesn't flow as a river. Sometimes you have ups and downs, and you want to make sure that SIEM solution reflects this, that it's capable to adapt to these changes in data flow. With QRadar, sometimes it's harder. With Splunk or Elastic Cloud deployments, easy and smooth. You do not feel anything about it. So for the support in the community, that's an important part, because once you have a question, once you need to troubleshoot anything, once you have an issue with any part of this, you'll probably go to Reddit, you'll go to the community chat, you'll go to the official support, of course. But I know that it's so much easier and so much faster to Google some results at the moment, or even let's call it to AI the result at the moment. I do love Splunk support. I found that Elastic and QRadar supports will probably need to learn something from them. But on the other hand, we had some ups and downs with Splunk support as well. So I would say all of the SIEM solution at this point are leveled, and it all depends on the problem that you face, on the question that you need to address, and on the urgency of this. Because if your operations are down, if your SIEM is not operated, then you want questions and answers as soon as possible. So in a nutshell, what we have, I would say that Cloud Elastic is easy and fast to deploy. In just an hour of time, you will have SIEM solution up and running. Splunk and QRadar would be maybe a little bit slower, but if you choose the Splunk Cloud option, if you choose the QRadar option, Cloud Native one, that would be as fast as Elastic. If we speak about the on-prem deployment, my favorite would be Splunk. Easy, fast, all in one for small deployments. But again, if you would want to go with technical IBM insights, QRadar could be a good choice. Dmytro, would you want to add anything on top of it?
Actually, it sounded really good, and I don't have anything convincing to actually add here, because you gave a really very good dive into this. But I would like to switch to the next one, so we can talk a little bit about the security monitoring, because it's important to make it a part of a stack, and it's important to not make it a alone standing tool, but to make it a part of what you're working on and what your team is going to be working with. So SIEM is an important part of the detection, and it's important how it integrates with the threat intel and stuff. How do you see it usually coming when the time to choose comes? How do you usually give it to the potential clients and people who you onboard to make them choose from? Because in many occasions we suggest the options to the companies that we work with, but they are the ones to decide. So how is it usually positioned?
I would say that one of the first questions that I would ask of a new prospect, of a new lead, would be what their security needs are. And with this, I would go into the data sources that we want to be ingested, stored, processed within the SIEM. This reflects the integrations part on the slide that you presented at the moment. So integrations is something that help you to easily and seamlessly send data into SIEM. I would say that you can send any data into any SIEM at the moment. It's just a matter of time and effort that you need to take. And if it's something that, the basic tools, the most popular tools that we have on the market, they have these native integrations in a couple of clicks, a couple of additional permissions that you give, and you have data flowing into the SIEM solution. So Splunk has a Splunk base, more than like 2,300 various applications helping you to integrate, to get some insights, details, answers out of the information that you have. So as I mentioned, Splunk is a base, and you build on top of this base what you want this base to be. Consider it's like a Lego set. So you have a lot of bricks, and you want to build a house. If you want this house to be a fire station, no problem. If you want this house to be a hospital, then you add a couple of additional blocks. This was what happens with Splunk. With IBM QRadar, with Elastic, it's a little bit different, but basically they have enough integrations and enough capability to get information flown into the system easy and seamlessly. So a little bit smaller, a little bit cheaper, a little bit easier, but you still have this firehouse or hospital. It's just the question that you need to know this at the very beginning when you start the building process. So from the detection rate, it all depends on the analytics detection that you want to implement. Out of the box, all of the solutions, they have some rules, but probably you wouldn't want to use the out of the box rules. So they are fine to have, they are good to fine tune and update, but you want to tailor those to your security needs. And you
Yeah,
know
that's true.
that all of these systems, they have their own search query language. It's a matter of studying this language, or you can use a lot of tools on the market now that can convert from one query language to another. So I would say that it's a matter of you understanding the infrastructure and then the needs, the use cases. And once you do have this understanding, you can build the detection and put this detection within the Splunk, QRadar, or Elastic SIEM. This will give you the reactive approach. So you will react to some kind of security incidents, like security telemetry that will be popping up within your infrastructure. And going forward, I would say that you might want to add something like a proactive approach as well. But at the moment, we will speak about the reactive only. The modern tools that you have within all of the systems, the AI tools, the machine learning tools are good enough. You might want to spend some additional efforts to make sure that these language models work and operate as you need those, but they do help to pick up a lot of valuable details. Sometimes security analysts, human security analysts, are just not capable of picking up some malicious traits of activity that is not being aligned within one security incident. But this advanced machine learning toolkit helps to have information in front of you. Even the spikes of this activity can be something that you want to pay attention to. So from the perspective of security monitoring, I love all of these solutions. My team would say that they're capable of implementing detections on Splunk, QRadar, or Elastic, depending on what the needs of a customer, of a client is. And from the data connector, again, it's really easy and capable of having this information within the SIEM solution as soon, as fast as possible. Let's go to the next slide because it has some additional details that I want to pay attention to.
And as far as I understand, all this currency, they easily integrate with the SOAR, so there is no problem with that at all.
That's a good point, actually. Of course, all of these systems, they have good API that you can use to feed information into SOAR to make sure that SOAR acts as a single point of single tool that helps you to automate the detection and response operations within your MDR environment. Why I wanted to emphasize on this slide is because if all of the systems that we compare today are good on a background, they are working, they have a good mechanism, a good engine of you to detect threats, again, depending on the efforts you put. But anyways, you can compare those and say that they are good structured. But the front end, the UI differs a lot. And this is where you need to choose carefully, because if UI is something that you are not actually going after, if it's not something that you want to pay extra money for, then you're perfectly fine with QRadar, for example. If it's something that you would want to have, but it's not that critical, I would go with Elastic. But if you would want to have mobile application on your cell phone, if you would want to have robust and some crazy dashboards with drill down, with a dashboard that leads to another dashboard to some response action, that's perfectly fine with Splunk. I go back to the part where you need to realize that all of these integrations, all of this customization take a lot of efforts, but we are comparing the capabilities at the moment. So I would say that it's all a matter of choices where you want to go after. So the external action is something that helps you to understand what other capabilities these systems have. And if you have something like a ticket management tool, then definitely you wouldn't want to have this ticket management tool within Splunk, which it actually offers. A wonderful ticket management, a wonderful adding collaborators, escalating to some other clients if needed, doing some response action. That's a built-in functionality. But if you already have this toolkit, if you use your Jira, if you use your ServiceNow, if you have some other systems that you would want to integrate with, then definitely you probably not use this. So why overpaying? Going back to this 20% that you mentioned on the beginning, if you're perfectly fine with having, Elastic and Jira, why not? Why overpaying for Splunk in this case? So I would say that choosing carefully and choosing these features and options is something that you might want to consider when choosing the SIEM vendor.
And what about the performance? Speaking of, querying, speed of querying, how do this perform? As far as I understand, the Splunk is actually leading in this regard.
Yes and not. I think that first of all, it's a matter of resources that you allocate to each of these deployments. And if you have enough resources for your QRadar and Elastic, if they are not being loaded, but again going forward, saying that most of the companies, most of the security teams will want to have this loaded to 80-85%, making sure that you have some capability of growing up, but you do not overpay for these resources. Splunk is easier, I guess, but again, it's a matter of your expertise. If you've been working with QRadar for 10, 15 years, switching to Splunk would be something that you feel that it's quite different, like changing cars, as you mentioned. If you drive Ford and go to Ferrari, that's something quite different experience. But if you just go for the groceries, that's totally fine with driving Ford over there as well. That's why I would say that all of these solutions, they will give you a lot of valuable insights as long as you know how to ask these questions. And Splunk here gives you a lot of visuals, a lot of details. When you definitely think that, oh, I didn't think about it, but here is an answer. So the company thought about it in front of me. They provided these results. With QRadar and Elastic, you might want to think about it first, then to implement it. Again, the example with the building and the houses. You need to understand where the window should be located. With Splunk, in Splunk case, they already give you a couple of windows, and you just choose out of available options.
And this is something you specifically need to think about when you're picking, picking a provider who's going to be managing it for you, because you need to have the visibility. Not only them need to have it, but you also need to, especially when we're speaking about the reporting for compliance.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of companies choose SIEM just because they need to have this due to different compliance, different GRC. I would say that if you are in this category, then you can go with the ordinary system that is aggregating data, that is providing you some insights. But that would not be enough in case that you want to build a robust cybersecurity program. Pay attention to something that could provide you a cheap and easy storage, but on the other hand, provides you the availability and the ability to drill down, to ask questions, queries in our case, and receive the answers. Like Elastic, for example, why not? So you're paying for cheap cloud storage. You have a lot of data being stored due to the compliance needs, but then you have a capability of asking questions that would be beneficial for your security team.
All right, but let's move a little bit to the business side of things. I remember that whenever we have conversations with people on the business side, they're particularly interested in knowing the rollout time for the tools like SIEM. Do we have any kind of correlation in between the type of the SIEM and the rollout time, or is it, more dependent on the current setup, current tool set that they have, and the log ingestion amount?
A lot of this will influence the rollout time, but basically speaking, if it's a cloud solution, it will take you a couple of days. If it's an on-prem solution, you might want to consider something like a week or so to make sure that everything is working perfectly fine, to get all these accesses, to make sure that integration is working fine. But it depends. It depends. I would be probably misleading you if I say that there is an exact number of days that you take for each and every deployment.
And there's, of course, the tuning time to avoid the false positives and stuff.
And tuning time will depend on the number of data sources you implement, number of correlations you want to have, all the other factors, like, for example, availability of the system, the legacy. of the data sources or the environment that you work with, and so on and so forth. So yeah, but I would say that the fine tuning is a continuous process, and you might want to invest some time and efforts into having your system being fine tuned, updated as you go. It's not a one time action that you want to have.
Okay, got it. So let's talk about the cost of implementing thing like this. I believe we have a slide for this, which is called cost and licensing. What do we usually hear from people when we start providing them different options for the SIEM? Is that they want the most cost-effective solution. Of course, this is no normal thing to have, but at the same time, we all understand that it might come with, shortcomings, like less of customizability, or you know, different approach and different amount of resources required to actually manage it. What do you usually propose as a starting point for different size of companies?
Let's understand. I was mentioned this a couple of times today, but let's understand the needs of a company first. Um, all of these SIEM solutions, they have a different pricing model. So Splunk is a straightforward pricing model. You take the amount of data you ingest, gigabytes per day, and you have the license cost. If you um, look at the QRadar solution, you might want to look for something like in events per second. It's a quite different approach, and also it's combined with the infrastructure that you want to put this SIEM onto: number of servers, number of endpoints, number of locations, and so on and so forth. With Elastic, you're working with the infrastructure base, so you allocate a couple of sometimes some resources. The more resources you allocate, the more cost associated with these resources would be. That means that you will have to pay for this. But then you can ingest data as much as you want, if we speak about the on-prem deployment of Elastic. So I would go with the understanding of security need within the pricing model first. If it's a scalability that you look after, then probably you would want to look for the infrastructure based. If it's you're stable, you're fine, you want to go with the Splunk, the volume based one looks pretty easier. I would probably also want to pay attention to some hidden costs, because it's not only the SIEM license that you pay for.
Yeah.
Sometimes you pay for the SIEM license and then you have some charges for data transfer between Google Cloud and AWS Cloud, or that you have some additional applications that you want to put on top of this, or with some different integrations that you want to have. So I would probably study this question in details to make sure that you understand if total cost of ownership for this SIEM solution is a license only, license plus deployment, or maybe there is some other possible hidden costs associated with this. Let's go with the scaling as well. So again, if you're a straightforward company, nothing changed for a couple of years now, no data sources will be added, removed. Maybe there is some changes in number of employees, but not a significant one. Go with something that is easy to predict, easy to, that doesn't have this amazing scaling capabilities. But if it's something that you know that it's changing, then probably that changes.
Yeah, yeah, this definitely makes sense. And by the way, as far as I can see, we have some questions already, so let me quickly touch on this one. So, um, can we please have this on screen? I think it's gonna be able to do that. Oh yeah. So, given that managed SOC as a service providers like Arctic Wolf offer integrated data ingestion and analysis capabilities without requiring us to maintain a SIEM infrastructure. How would you compare the total cost of ownership and operational benefits between building and maintaining our own SIEM solution with Splunk or Elastic versus using a managed SOC as a service that includes data ingestion, retention, correlation, and 24/7 analysis? Oh, well, very well. Thank you very much for asking this question, Sunil. This is a very good one, and this is something that we hear a lot asked from us, because whenever we see a customer coming to us for specifically for the SIEM solution, in many occasions they have this same question in their mind.
I would
Because
say that answer the question that Sunil has. First of all, we need to understand that SIEM as a service is being offered by a lot of various MDR vendors. So total cost of ownership here would be something that you want to consider when you switch from one vendor to another one.
Yeah.
If a company provides you an option of retaining your data and passing this data to a new vendor, to your in-house team, to whatever you want to, that's probably something that you want to pay attention to. But in the case of one of some providers, they give you the SIEM capabilities, this analytic capability, but you're kind of like tied to this company. And once you want to switch, once something is not as you expected, once you are not satisfied with their services, then there is a pain in the neck because you have these compliance needs. You need to retain this data, but you cannot switch easier to something else. So choosing carefully is something that I would advise here, because you could be offered managed SIEM, but in case you can take this managed SIEM data, this managed SIEM detection correlations, this managed SIEM setup, and just move it to the other managed SIEM solution provider, that's perfectly fine. So it's not a matter of the place where SIEM is actually located within your environment, in-house, managed SIEM provider, or maybe like MSSP vendor. It doesn't matter. The question here is it easier, is it capable of moving this data, storing, and shuffling this data to some other place? So I would probably pay attention to this. So I hope I answered your question, because it was very complex, and if you stop on each and every detail of this, probably will take a while. If you would want to reconnect after the meeting, I'll be more than happy to chat with you on this.
Another thing I would also ask is whether they're providing you a shared SIEM, or is it dedicated for your specific needs and it's tailored for you, it's set up for you, and it's actually has the specific correlations that are created for your specific setup. So there's different possibilities, and I've seen some examples when vendors get companies signed without actually specifying what exact SIEM they're providing, how it's set up, what they're going to do with it in order to tailor it to specific needs of the infrastructure that a client has. So this is something you want to uncover in order to understand what you're actually paying for. But it's a good idea to have external expertise to be provided to you. Having a managed SIEM is a pretty good idea, because one of the things is that it's more cost effective for you, so that you don't have to hire additional people to actually run the SIEM for you. You don't have to run it on your own host. You don't have to care about that. You don't have to worry about that. Also, there is a continuous log tuning to filter out the noise and reduce the false positives that we already mentioned, and writing custom detection rules to spot the advanced threats, and skilled analysis to triage and respond to alerts 24/7. And the truth is, most organizations lack the resources to the expertise to manage the SIEMs effectively on their own. And with managed SIEM through an MDR provider, you gain access to a dedicated team of cybersecurity experts who actually know how to do this, how to monitor the threats in real time, how to detect complex emergent threats, attacks using threat intelligence, and how to respond quickly before incidents escalate. They focus on what really matters. And with a managed SIEM, with an MDR provider, your specific team that you have, they can focus on strategic priorities that drive your business forward. And the trust, the threats are being monitored by the team, managed, and responded to them around the clock. It's one of the important things that many big companies learned when they first started reaching out to managed service providers, is that, let's say they have a support team or NOC team, and they thought that they have the actual detection right and they have everything they need. But in reality, these teams are more dedicated to actually having the system running and providing business with what it needs, instead of monitoring the alerts and threats and stuff like that.
This brings us to the service models, SIEM service models. You can have everything in house. It can be self-managed. I do feel that it's like a good option for the large companies because the drawbacks here would be the high capex expenses. But on the other hand, you will have like your analyst, full-time employees, security employees that will be doing the operations. A lot of costs associated with this: training, managing costs, providing with enough certifications needed. Uh, but then you can have something like a fully managed on the contrary. Fully managed would be something that shifting from capex to opex expenses from the budget perspective. You will have ability to choose within the broad expertise of this vendor. If you want to have this, dedicated team or shared resources, if you want to have a full coverage or maybe just a part of this, if you want to have something like a hybrid model when this team is covering just level 1 and level 2, and then your in-house team is doing the level 3 security incident triage. This brings us to various models. It all depends, again, the effectiveness of the model depends on your current financial and security needs. If it's a small company, it's so much easier to go with a fully managed one. If you're a large enterprise, I bet you would want to have something like a co-managed or even self-managed. But there is always a hybrid option when you kind of delegate these functions. And it helps to have a different view on the same problem from different angles. Dmytro mentioned in a couple of minutes ago that the security team that works within different environments have a lot of expertise, and they can pick up some traits of possible indicators of compromisation within one environment and have this IOC used within another to see these 0 days, for example. This helps a lot. This helps to speed up the detection, speed up the response. It helps to make sure that your company stays on a sharp edge.
I got into the discussion and I'm typing the answer right now. I'm sorry for getting distracted, but this is a good thing Ahmad actually mentioned. I believe we need to take EDR compatibility into account as well. In most cases, using the EDR from the same vendor tends to be more efficient. However, this does come with the drawback. Yeah, that's for sure. Just to save some time, consider recent CrowdStrike case. Same goes with the Microsoft stack, which is good on its own, but you get locked in with it. And in any negative situation, CrowdStrike actually poked MS for that, and they had the same situation recently. So you need to definitely consider that. And that's when you actually can refer to managed service, where will be suggested what can be used in conjunction with what you already have. Like in our case, for example, we're vendor agnostic. We're not tied to any specific software vendor. And this allows us not only to onboard any kind of existing setup, but also to give the clients the solutions that they need rather than prefer based off the price only or some other case. I saw a comment from the chat, which one of these three SIEM is more prone to attacks regardless of the robustness? I believe that there is no strict answer to this one. Andrew, what would you say? I believe that all the three solutions are robust, but you need to really work on them.
I would say give us some more details, and we will help you to choose. If we just speak about the SIEM solution, all of them are good SIEM solutions. But do we want to make this SIEM solution cost-effective and reasonable? So the more details you can provide to your managed security vendor, to UnderDefense in this case, we'll be happy to advise you on this. And answer the previous question on EDRs, I would say that having EDR in place, that's a level 0. Then you have level 1 when you are satisfied with this EDR solution. It needs to have a good capability of detecting, of isolating, giving you some additional details when you do threat hunting. If it's a vendor and SIEM on the same side, if they are similar, if they are being acquired by each other in some cases, that's even double bonus. But it's not something that you would want to go after. If the, for example, in case of Elastic Cloud, if it's a good EDR tool and a good SIEM tool, then you'll have a good match. But if it's again a CrowdStrike, it's again one of my favorite ones, and Elastic CrowdStrike and Splunk. Why not? They provide a lot of additional details, a lot of insights. They work perfectly fine. They have wonderful integrations, so you will probably feel no problem with this.
Yeah, Thank you very much. So, as far as I understand, we don't have more questions in the chat, or maybe we do. Let's have a look. We had a comment on the easy QRadar deployment. Well, this depends. We're comparing apples to apples. We're not saying that it's too complex for a human being to implement it. We're just saying that comparing to the other solutions listed here is the one that it's on the harder side of things, so to say.
So, wrapping up today's conversation, I would say that choose carefully. Make sure that you just do not overspend. Make sure that SIEM solution is something that fills your needs. The small companies of 10, 15, 20 people might not need SIEM unless you have the compliance or regulations that requires this. Small to medium business is something that's highly recommended. Maybe you would consider outsourcing SIEM as a service with the whole complex of implementing, deploying, fine-tuning, patching the solution, and providing you with the security analysts that work on top of it. For larger corporations, enterprises, you might want to have a team that works and help you to maintain this, to have the security correlations automations being deployed, or provide you with additional insights within your security program. So choose carefully, make sure that you understand what you ingest and what your needs are, and this helps to save money. If you're not on a money saving side, then go out of whatever solution you feel is the most popular.
And I would also add, reach out to the managed service provider. Check out what they propose you. Check out what solutions they would actually recommend, and see what they can do for you. If there is a possibility for you to save time, save resources, save money by having someone do this for you, why not doing that? This is a good option, and this is actually what we do provide as well. So be sure to reach out to us whenever you need to. Okay, see you guys. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.